What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Xtra Points. John Barry to my left here. I'm Eric Schmolt. We talked about the girls all-area team and our player of the year in last week's episode.
We did.
So we're back this weekend with the boys team. This will put a wrap on the winter season, and we can officially move on to spring. And hopefully the rain.
Better weather than we got today, man.
Yes. Why don't we start right here in town in Janesville? Okay. I guess just first off the field in general, another pretty strong boys field. We have several guys in our area that are going on to play at the next level. We had some teams that I think found some real success this season, and I think as goes with a lot of awards, the teams that are successful have the guys that kind of carried them there, and it kind of shows up on our team here.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about this team is I think every kid on there brings a little something different to the table, and it's a team where you could fill all five positions that you've got if you look at that team and what you have, and that's pretty cool. And again, certainly a lot of good players in our area, but when it came down to it, I think you and I both agreed it wasn't too hard to pick these five. Just a good group of kids that really meant a lot to their programs, and individually shined when given the opportunity, and certainly made their teams better.
But I would say most of them, they weren't guys that needed to steal the spotlight either.
No.
They played on teams that had some pieces around them as well, and they weren't afraid to share the wealth.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Starting right here in town, I think a kid that was on the team, our all-area team last year, senior guard Santrell Payton. He wound up scoring 12.3 points per game this season, went over the 1,000 mark. I think he wound up somewhere in like the top 6 or 7 all-time scoring for Craig. And just kind of a player that throughout his 4 years was a playmaker when the Cougars needed him to be. He could shoot from outside. He could also attack the rim depending on kind of what teams were giving him.
Just a great all-around player, and I think you hit it on the head when you said that, he did so many different things for that team. A big outside three. He could go to the basket. Certainly, when they
razzle dazzle every once
when
in a
they
while.
put on that full court press, he was he was as quick a hands as anybody. And the thing with Santrell that really stands out is he made the most of somebody that really was undersized. If he's 6'1" or 6'2", you're probably talking about a Division I scholarship for him. But he's just he's at that tweener size where he's just not big enough. But certainly, heart-wise and effort-wise, he gave everything. And like you said, he hit the 1,000-point mark this year. And the long list of kids that have come through that Craig pipeline, certainly Santrell ranks in the top 10 or so.
Don't think he's made anything official yet. The last time I talked to him during the season was thinking Madison College for next year, and then see what happens from there. But I don't know for sure. We've got another Craig teammate on that on our group here. The Cougars finished a 16-8, I want to say it was. They went to the regional finals, but a tough sectional and a tough Big 8 conference to play in. Yep. So you got to keep that in mind for sure. Adam Anhold, the senior forward who's headed to Bemidji State, a guy who, within that Big 8, depending on what teams they were playing, was either a matchup problem or was able to go against some of those bigger guys like a Knight at Madison Memorial and things like that, and was able to match up with those kind of guys.
Yeah, exactly. And a kid, probably if you look at the 5 kids on our team, I'm not saying that all of them didn't improve in that, but I think Adam improved the most over his career of anybody else on this team. He made himself into a pretty good basketball player, and he was rewarded by that with like you said, a Division II scholarship to Bemidji State, which is a good program. And at 6'8", a kid that can shoot, and when he finally realized, and I think they tried to ingrain it into his head at some point, your best bet's probably getting that post, and when he did that, he was a matchup problem for a lot of teams. He was able to finish. He was pretty soft around the rim, which he could finish, and that's the one thing you like to see. But if he had to step out and hit the three, he could, and that opened things up for the other guys as well. But again,
and a pretty decent free throw shooter, so when he got fouled, he made teams pay.
And probably had, I would say, of anybody I saw, had the most dunks of anyone this year. There was actually a little YouTube of highlights of Adam Anhold dunks for this year, and I think he was up to 10 or 12, which you don't see a lot of that in high school, certainly not in this area. And again, I can't say enough about the work he put in to make himself what I think is going to be a pretty good college basketball player.
He averaged 15.3 points and 8 rebounds a game. Let's go east to the Southern Lakes Conference.
All right.
The Elkhorn Elks put together a pretty decent year, kind of made a run at even a Southern Lakes title, ended up finishing third. And one of the two primary catalysts over there was Alex Easterday, who finished averaging 18.1 points to go second in the Southern Lakes. Also added almost 8 rebounds a game. And I think I read today on Twitter that he's going to Madison College as well. So Easterday over at Elkhorn, you had a chance to see him, I think, a time or two this year.
Very impressed. Very consistent. Just a real good all-around game. Defensively strong. I mean, big kid, strong. Rebounded hard. And then offensively, again, kind of that slasher, goes to the basket hard if he has to, or he can knock down that 10, 15-foot jumper. And, on a team like that where they had some young kids, certainly along with Ingersoll, I mean, Easterday's a kid that really, like you said, they got him into the mix of that Southern Lakes title. I think they'll admit that a disappointing tournament run for them where they just, they thought they could win a couple of games. But Alex Easterday, a guy that you can never have enough of those kids on your team. I know that's an old cliche, but he'd run through a brick wall for you, and you want those kids. I don't know how many times I saw him on the ground for a loose ball or, in a scuffle to get a rebound or whatever it might be. But again, you can't say enough, but he made the guys around him better, and that's what you want from your best players.
Coming back toward Rock County, the Rock Valley Conference had a couple of superstars from around here, one on the north side and one on the south side. And at Evansville, it was Brendan Banks. It was a standout 4-year career for him overall, but also this year as a senior. I think one thing was he was able to stay healthy for the most part, where in other years some things had kind of nagged at him a little bit. And this year he stays healthy. He finishes by leading the North with 23.6 points per game. And, he just did it over and over and over again. Evansville's all-time leading scorer. I don't even know what else you can say about him.
No, and a convincingly all-time leading scorer. I mean, he put quite a bit of distance between him and the second-place guy. And he kind of was the Rock of the Rock Valley. I mean, a guy that for 4 years was, the keeper of the castle, so to speak, for that Evansville-Albany program, and Coach Steve Krupke. And a kid going to get his chance to play at the next level at St. Norbert. I think it's a good fit for him. You talked about injuries and how he's able to stay injury-free, but I know that Steve had mentioned earlier in the year that he'd hurt his wrist and played through it. And Steve said that's the kind of kid that he is. And all these kids are probably in the same boat as far as their dedication to sport and that, but Brendan Banks clearly was a gym rat. I remember Steve telling me nights where he'd have to kick him out of the gym and just say, Brendan, look, I got a family. I want to get home to my family. I know you want to shoot and get better. And he said, but it's time to leave. And he said he'd be the first one to practice, the last one to leave practice. And he said practices were basically staged as much the same a game was, where he went all out and he expected that of his teammates as well.
Should mention he was the Rock Valley North Player of the Year. For some of these other guys, Easterday was first team All Southern Lakes Conference. Peyton and Anholder both second team All Big 8, which in that league,
nothing wrong with that.
You're probably going to be first team in just about any other league,
right?
Because that league ran so deep, especially this year with seniors. And I think any one of them really could have been our Player of the Year in any other year. But for the second straight year, Alec Fruin from Beloit Turner, just a guy who can do it all, and his points show up because he averaged almost 28 a game, so that shows up easily. But then I remember people saying, well, could he do it at Division I if he was in a Division I team? And I think anybody who's watched him play would unequivocally say yes. He averaged almost 11 rebounds a game, almost 4 assists a game. He did a little bit of everything, and teams knew that he could, and they couldn't do anything about it.
No, and arguably, not even arguably for me, best player I saw. I don't think there's any question about it. A kid that just could do so many different things, and I think there were times he might have played a little bit too unselfishly, where I think those 40-point games that he could have had more of, because there were times where he just took over a game, and when he does that, you just kind of stand back and admire, and that's what I found myself doing. And as good a year as Nacio Villarreal had, Alec was the guy, and Ken Watkins will tell you that, and said, if somebody gives this kid a chance at the next level, they're going to be pleasantly surprised, because he said when he doesn't have to do everything and he can just go out and play and not worried about being double or triple teamed. He's about 6'3", 6'4", shoots the ball well, handles it pretty well, and a kid that, given the chance, I think he could be a very, very effective shooting guard.
Yeah, I think we've said, he's waited, whereas, I'm sure he would have liked to have had the decision behind him and not have to worry about it anymore, but he's waited to kind of see what would happen. And some Division II, he's got a couple Division II offers now, or maybe even a Division
Western
I.
Michigan or Northern Michigan, one of those two, yeah.
Somebody's going to get a steal here late.
They are.
Maybe it's somebody who gets a new coach and they're a little late in the recruiting game or something, but somebody's going to get a steal here because for some reason he just didn't get the offers that I think people thought he
it would
probably
have been so neat to see him play at the state level, because a lot of times that's where you open some eyes. The Diener kid that was there from Cedarburg that's going to DePaul. Kobe King, certainly people that, he's going to Wisconsin next year. People got a chance to see why he was so heavily recruited. And I think the same thing might have been said of Alec Fruin is, really other than the bottom part of the state, I don't think a lot of kids or a lot of people knew about him. And I think given the opportunity to shine on a statewide stage, I think that would have helped him even more. But I agree with you. Somebody's going to give him a chance to play. And they are getting a diamond in the rough that could be a steal down the road.
He almost helped carry them to their first state tournament berth ever. Sectional semis, double overtime against a Lake Mills team that did wind up going to state. So,
yep.
A bounce here or there, and they wind up at the Kohl Center, and unfortunately just didn't go their way.
Nope.
But can't say enough about what, these four guys really, or all five of these guys, have done over the course of their careers. We give these out on a yearly basis, so this is really just about this year, but congrats to all five of them on what have been fantastic careers overall.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat that, all five are seniors. I know in our girls we had some underclassmen, but these five are seniors, and you give me these five, I'll roll out a ball and go play anytime, because
it'd be fun to watch this group play.
It would be a lot of fun, because, like I say, you've all got guys there that could play their natural position and not have to play out of position. And I think under those circumstances, you might say, well, guy, you wouldn't have enough balls to go around to keep them all happy with shots and that, but I think you would.
Yeah,
and I think all those kids, can play very unselfish, and they would be fun to watch.
All of them had other complementary pieces on their team that they needed to get involved with to have the success that they did during the season. So I think we could run a little bit, too.
I think we'd run a little bit. There might be some pressing, I can guarantee you that. And three-pointers, boy, would we shoot the three well.
It would be fun. Someday we'll figure out a way to make it happen. But congrats to all those guys, and make sure you check out the paper on Sunday for a full write-up on Player of the Year Alec Fruin and the rest of the gang on our all-area team. And we'll see you back here as we dive headfirst into the spring sports here over the next few weeks.
Second base, you bet.
See you then, everybody.
Take care.